Everybody, welcome back for part two. One other thing I just remembered that I wanted to include in the other video about the confirmation of information had to do again with the Pleiadians and what they were talking about when they say that they don't see other dimensions, they don't see um, timelines and other realities, so to speak. To them, they see it as simply one field. There's a video I did a long time ago about the idea that there was only one dimension. And I talked about the idea that what we see in those as different dimensions is really looking at that single dimension from a different viewpoint, a different way. Um, the idea is that science says one dimension is a single dot. Well, think about the idea that if you became small enough, that little dot that's supposed to be single dimension would now become third dimensional. So anyway, the Pleiadians are talking about the idea that they don't see the timelines, realities, and so on, because from their point of view, everything is there at the same time. Um, and that confirms a couple of things I talked about. One, that all time is simultaneous and it already exists. That everything that ever could happen, every moment in space-time within this universe has already occurred and is still existing. That each one of those moments in space-time is a single individual independent moment in space-time, and it can be put together in different orders in order to have different experiences, what we call a linear manner. And what they're talking about confirms that kind of a concept as well. The difference when they say that they don't see it as timelines is kind of incorrect, because the creator does have to play it all out. So they're not really putting into the creator, so to speak, but the creator does have to play out experiences, and that we say we're putting things together in a linear fashion, but everything happened in a linear fashion that could happen. In other words, every timeline that could possibly exist already exists. And even though they may see those as individual independent moments of space-time, at some point they've all been put together in order to create timelines in other realities. And so it goes back to, like I said, the confirmation of those ideas that everything exists already. They see it as a single unit, as a single field, um, in one reality of everything that could be within the universe. And that goes back to the idea I've talked about before about the concept of nothing, and how nothing is all that is real, and that everything came from nothing, a created source, which is a material version of itself, which is light, energy, and vibration. It divided itself up into what we call galaxies, in which each galaxy is a possibility playing itself out of the single thought had by the creator, or nothing at the time. And then the galaxies divide themselves into farther and farther down into planets and stars, and into every role that could possibly be here. So that's how we're all connected in that. But what they're talking about in their observations essentially is a confirmation of that concept that I've talked about many times. And I go into more detail in the second book on We Are the Real Body Snatchers, where I talk more about the idea of how that takes place. In the first book, um, Truth Beyond the Earthly Matrix, I talk more about time. But in the second book, I go into more details on kind of how it works, how space-time, the individual moments, and so on, and how the idea that everything that ever could be already is. And I use the example is, if you were to want to paint a picture and you think that you can paint anything that you want to, and you're correct. However, every color that you could ever use already exists. You can't create a color that doesn't already exist, even though you may mix them together. But in order for you to mix them together, they have to already exist. The same thing when you paint that picture. No matter what you're painting, it exists somewhere. There has to be a basis for it. You can't paint what doesn't exist, nor can you ever have a thought of that it doesn't exist. So anyway, this is just more information from the Pleiadians, and again, because they are detailing some of the information that I've already talked about, it also, at least to me, emphasizes my connection to the Pleiades. My connection with that system and the people from the past, the information I've been getting from my higher self is also connected to what they are talking about. So anyway, I think that was about all I wanted to cover in this one. Have yourself a great day, everyone.